standing in front of the Alternative Fuels dedicated area at UNITI Expo 2018, where research institutes, suppliers and other players offer a glimpse into the future. We'll be talking to different experts about all these types of fuels and how they will adapt to the new industry.
A lot of alternative fuels are showing up over the last years, and we have a massive discussion regarding also the Volkswagen scandal about what is the future. We talk about e-mobility, but I think it's a mix of a lot of different kind of fuels we will have in the future. We see worldwide a great demand and growing in all these businesses. That's why we are concentrating here on our booth on a lot of alternative fuels, and one of them are LNG, CNG and LPG, where we have a full bandwidth and support the whole global market with our equipment. I think there will be a lot of differences. Every market will have their core businesses, their fuel alternatives, what is available in different markets. But in general, we will see all over the world a lot of the same style of fuel, LNG, CNG, LPG, hydrogen. That will be a big share around the world with all kind of variations.
To be able to answer the forecourt of the future question, and I think it's important to take a step back and look at all the macro trends impacting this industry right now. I think this is the first time this industry is being disrupted in a number of years, and we are seeing a lot of new things coming in. I mean, we're seeing electrical cars, but we're also seeing autonomous cars, connected cars. Then we are looking at new business models, like for example, car sharing is coming in and it's growing, and new models of energy delivery. So the forecourt of the future is something that will encompass all these new technologies, new energy forms, because there's electrical cars, but there's also LPG and CNG and so on. And so it's a new format, and it's a new retail format where these things will take place. So we think that the forecourt of the future is going to be something more fluid than the current version of it, where for some markets there will be electrical car charger and a fuel dispenser. For other markets there'll be a huge store and just a place where you can grab a coffee. There are going to be new formats and new things, and it's all coming at full steam. And once back to my first initial topic, user experience is going to be key on all this. The easiness to move around, the easiness to interact with the cars, to request a car, to fuel, it's going to be the key of the future. So at our level, what we are focusing is, of course, we are presenting here, behind us, we can see E.ON Next, a brand focused on mobility and offering electrical car chargers. But we have also new dispensers covering new energy formats, CNG, LPG, AdBlue, all these things. And paramount to all these and central to all these, we think the user experience is becoming key. So you can see our new fuel dispenser that has a 27-inch multimedia screen where the user can interact. He can pay with the app, but he can also interact and add products to a basket and send a receipt. And if you have the app, the dispenser knows you and can show you. So you are performing well. Your average consumption is spot on, but maybe you need to check your tires and get an offer on this one.
If we are thinking about it now, there are 2 points. Yeah? The good question is that liquid fuels will be necessary, I would say, throughout the next 20, 30 years at least. Yes? The very big advantage that we have is that the technology for alternative fuels is already available. Yes? So there's nothing to develop. But the point that you have always keep in mind is that you have to take care about the resources. We have made very big steps, very good advantages in biofuels. For example, biodiesel is used for more than 10 to 15 years. Yes, now. And it's a very successful product, if you want to say. But the demand on the fuels, they progresses, and biodiesel is known as a first generation fuels, and today second generation fuels. need to be used or need to be developed. And this simply means a change in the feedstock that you have to use. Where you could use before for biodiesel or biofuels, you could use crops, etc. For the second generation fuels, we expect that more or less the fuels are based on waste. Yes, for example, on wood waste. It's a very good example. Yes, here, for example, I have something. It's a pyrolysis oil. Yes, this pyrolysis oil is made completely from wood waste. Yes? And it might be a very good feedstock for further products, which go very close to biodiesel, etc. Yes? But also other different fuels are already available. Yes? For example, fuels which are based on methanol, etc. Yeah? But what is missing at the moment is the feedstock and the production facilities. This is a very important point. Yes? And it depends very much how this progresses. Yeah? The production facilities, the feedstocks, etc. And this will answer the question which fuels will make the race within the next 10 to 20 years or so.
When it comes to being worried about the electric revolution, I think it would only be a threat if you would disregard it. Because I really do believe that electric mobility revolution, it's happening now, it's going to happen fast, and I think there's a place for them also, just as companies like E.ON. So that's why I don't think they would be too worried as long as they get on the boat and co-create value with us to the end customers. So basically the role I see gas station operators having in the future when it comes to electric mobility, I mean, they have prime locations on highways all over Europe. The need to travel long distances still persists. And this means that we have to deploy ultra-fast chargers, for instance, on these gas stations, preferably, since they have great locations, they have the amenities the customer still needs. And that's why I think there's a big role for them to play, because we need ultra-fast charging stations. That is stations that allow you to charge, for instance, 200 kilometers in around 10 minutes or so, to make sure that EV customers have the same opportunities as internal combustion engine customers to charge fast while being on the go on, for instance, motorways. So most definitely a role. I really do believe we will see a mix in the future. I don't think that there will be a case where it will be 100% electric fuels only. I think it really depends on the driver or driving need, let's say. So I would foresee more, instead of a black and white answer, a gray answer. I think there will be a mix where there will still be traditional fuels, but also larger portions, a growing segment of electric vehicles and hybrids.
So Hydrogenious Technologies is a typical spin-off of a university or a typical startup active in the field of so-called liquid organic hydrogen carriers. That means we have developed a technology that chemically binds hydrogen to a carrier oil, as you know, any oil that you deal with here at the trade fair, which basically enables or which makes it possible to still use the existing infrastructure for fossil fuels for a emission-free hydrogen economy and hydrogen mobility especially. You can basically separate the hydrogen market into two segments. One is industrial hydrogen, which already today is the second biggest gas market in the world after natural gas, used for fertilizer production, methanol production, but also metal processing, refineries, and so on. And the second part is hydrogen mobility, which is a market that is still rather small, but it is growing very, very fast globally. And what we see is a big difference in the structure of the market. The industrial hydrogen market is an industrial market where you have industrial experts operating in the supply chain, whilst the hydrogen mobility market is at least a semi-commercial or semi-public market where you have non-professionals operating at refueling stations and so on. And there topics such as safety, easiness to handle and so on play a very, very important role. And that is basically where we bring a solution to, because today's transport technologies are really made for industrial supply. Medium scale quantities, not the quantities you will have at the refueling station. Experts handling the hydrogen, not semi-experts, let's say. And also a public area. I mean, a refueling station is located in inner city areas where you have completely different requirements from a safety perspective and so on. If you look at the transport market, how big is the transport market? It's probably one of the biggest markets in the world. What we see today is basically 3 to 4 hubs. One is California, second one is Europe, and then you have Japan, and now also China, very quickly evolving or developing with regards to hydrogen mobility. They all have a bit of different focus areas. California and Europe and Japan are more focused on passenger vehicles, with activities, for example, from H2 Mobility in Germany. You have companies like First Element Fuel in California. In China, they focus very much on buses and light-duty vehicles for hydrogen applications. And there the market is huge, the growth is huge, the activities are huge, and there's a very strong support from the Chinese government, for example, which in Europe we are lacking sometimes. There maybe the battery lobby is still a bit too well positioned, let's say.
H2 Mobility is building hydrogen refueling stations in Germany, and we're rolling out a network in 7 regions and the connecting autobahns. So we will have 100 stations to the end of 2019 to have a first basis of hydrogen mobility infrastructure. At the moment we have 43 stations and 48 under construction. So hydrogen will play a role in Germany because we have decided to have Energiewende, a change in the energy system. Germany is planning on having 50% of renewable energy in the grid by 2013. It's up to 80% till 2050. What happens if you have a lot of energy from renewable sources in the grid? You will have surpluses. You will have times when you don't have enough energy, and you will have times when you have too much energy. So we need a storage in between. And we need a storage that we can use before touching the grid, because the grid is not going to help us. The grid is going to be, can't store the energy and will not be efficient enough to get it through Germany, transport it through Germany. So we're all looking at hydrogen as the energy storage, and using it for mobility is one brilliant idea. So we're building up infrastructure as a basis, the first 100 stations, in order to then have a rollout of vehicles.